Today, more than ever, farming is one of the most important industries in the world. For most of us, it's the only way we're able to get fresh food and other produce. Living in urban environments where green space is at a minimum means that many people won't be able to ever live a self-sustaining lifestyle. So we need farmers to keep us fed. But farming inside a lab has become more prevalent. Lab-grown meats, dairy, and produce that are grown inside a controlled environment aren't being normal. These are some reasons why farming inside a lab is the future. Before we get started, please remember to give us a like if you enjoyed the video, then subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. That way, you never miss a thing. What types of food are created inside a lab? There are many different types of foods that are grown with the help of scientists. Different greens and lettuces are grown inside controlled environments. In the last few years, scientists have made major strides in creating lab-grown meat and dairy products that are cultured and grown inside the lab. It looks like just any other piece of red meat, but the difference is that they source cells from animal and they cultivate the meat from that. And the people who have tried it say it does taste very much like normal meat. The only difference is that only a very little piece of meat was actually part of the animal. Food demand is increasing. There are many reasons why the demand for food is increasing. One of the most dominant is that the population is growing. More people mean an increased demand for food. More people means that more fresh produce is needed to feed everyone to combat hunger. Many people are also living a more urban lifestyle, so they aren't able to sustain themselves. They live in areas where outside living space is at a minimum. They just don't have enough space to plant food for their own use. And even people living in more suburban areas just don't have time to do it. Working regular office hours means that you don't have enough time for a project like a vegetable patch. Admittedly, urban farming has become a big thing in recent years, and urban farmers do amazing things with very small patches. But as the demand grows, it might not just be enough. Farming technology is evolving. Farming has come a long way in the last few years. The way that farming is done now is very different from the way farmers did so a few hundred years ago. Farmers might be farming the same land that their forefathers worked, but they are using completely different techniques. This not only makes farming easier, but it also increases productivity. Farmers can farm large plots of land and they can do it quicker. They also get way more produce out of the same piece of land that they would have even a few years ago. New technology has helped them expand the amount of crops they harvest. They can now help to feed a lot more people using the same piece of land they would have in the 50s. Farmers are embracing these innovations. In many cases, farmers are becoming scientists too, and they understand the importance of new innovations. So by embracing these aids and learning to use them, they work with scientists to grow better and healthier crops and to grow more at one stage. So even if in the future traditional farming is still done on the same farms that are being used now, chances are a lot of what is used will come out of a lab. Seeds and products that can help with issues that farmers face are improving, and it can be a big help to traditional farmers in the future. Demand is growing, but land is not. They aren't making more land, but demand is growing. So while we're finding ways to increase the produce of land, we still need ways to farm that can be done in smaller areas. Lab farming can help on this. By creating products in the lab like meat and dairy, you would need much smaller working areas. This might mean that we'll need to clean up less larger pieces of land to use for agriculture. This will be better for the environment. Cleaning land areas can be a threat to biodiversity, since this destroys habitats that wild animals live in, and those can't easily be replaced. Certain types of crops are already being farmed in much smaller areas. For example, vertical farming methods can have rows and rows of greens growing vertically. This actually increases the surface area that is being farmed a great deal. Lab-grown meat might actually become less expensive. Yes, it's true at this stage, meat that is grown in lab is way more expensive than normal meat, but as the demand increases, this might change. Scientists are working on ways to produce these lab products cheaper and faster, and this means that the price might go down too. Time will tell if they are successful and if they're able to get the cost down in making it. As you can imagine, a lot goes into creating a single piece of lab-grown meat. Eventually, they might be able to put systems in place where it will almost be a factory assembly line type of production, but this will also depend on the amounts of people who are actually willing to use these products. Many people are still skeptical about meats and dairy products that are created that aren't vegan friendly yet. So scientists will need to educate people on these products and get them interested enough to try cultured meat. It could become more sustainable than traditional farming. Traditional beef farms are the cause of a lot of greenhouse gases that are emitted in the world every year. Farmers are working on ways to start to make farming more sustainable and better for the environment, but this isn't the easiest thing. So in theory, lab farming might be more sustainable than traditional farming would be, but that is in theory, and a lot of factors can impact this. It will largely be dependent on the types of energy that are used in the production of these products. If they could create facilities that are pretty efficient and green, then the production could be very efficient. Using clean energy could cut down production emissions massively, but it all depends on the facility that they work out of. How they grow these products can also have a large impact on how sustainable lab-grown products will be. In this area, more improvements will be needed, but I do think that they can get there. It has taken a relatively small amount of time to achieve the results we already see. So with more research and care, they can make massive strides, and we could be eating a lot more lab-produced meat and dairy products. Will lab-grown products help to stop animal cruelty? That would be the goal, but it might still be a long way to go to completely eradicate the need of still using animals when creating lab meats. In some cell-based meats, they only have to do a small procedure to get skin or stem cells from an animal. This is a relatively small procedure, so it doesn't cause a lot of pain. Since it does still use animal products, it still isn't really a vegan option, but many animal conservation organizations have gotten behind these products. The problem is that they still use fetal bovine serum in growing these meats, and creating that serum has some serious ethical issues attached. They will have to find another way to produce the meat for it to be animal cruelty free. Right now it depends on the living conditions of the animals that they do use to source the skin cells from too. One of the biggest issues in the beef industry is the way that animals are kept and the conditions they live in. That can be said about poultry and pork too. So for labs to be more animal friendly, they need to focus on this aspect too. Lab grown meat might be healthier. There are some health benefits to red meat products, but there are way more health concerns when it comes to eating a lot of red meat. Everything from cardiovascular disease to some types of cancer. These health concerns have been well documented and researched. Lab-grown meat could be much healthier for human consumption. Maybe. The meat that they grow at the moment has already some advantages. There's no fat content, so the producers add the fat later on. This means that they'll have full control over the fat content in the meat. But this might even go further. They're working on ways to control the nutrients that are added to the product, so they can add things like omega-3 fatty acids, which are extremely beneficial for human use. If they're able to achieve that, then this lab-produced meat will be much healthier than conventional meat is, and it can be safer too. There are many health and safety risks when using traditional animal products. There are different bacteria that grow in animal guts that could be dangerous to humans, so using lab-produced products would be safer and might stop the spread of some foodborne illnesses and complications. Cultivated meat is also created in a sterile and clean environment, so it could be safer because there's no danger of contamination. And it might be better for human consumption too, since one of the biggest fears that has been in focus in the last few years are antibiotics. Beef producers have strict restrictions when it comes to using antibiotics, but it is still a major problem and fear for consumers. And this should be one issue that is completely eradicated by using lab-grown products. There are many benefits of farming that happen inside a lab. The technology has already come a long way, and as science improves on their techniques and technology, it should improve even more in the future. Growing crops in a very small space and creating meat and dairy products that are completely animal cruelty free might be possible even sooner than we think. That is why I think lab farming might be the future. Thanks for watching.